What comes to mind when you think of Mexico? Corner home stores. Blew my mind that people opened up a store in their living room or kitchen. Or Oxxo. Got all my snacks there. Edit, thanks for the love. Glad this resonated with everyone. I spent my summers in Mexico visiting family and those stores were my lifeline. Loved everything about it and would never trade it for anything. One in almost every street too. The owners of the one on the street where I used to live literally knew me from when I was baby up until I got married. They used to give me free candy all the time. They are a really nice couple who worked their butts off and very rarely took a break or closed the store for vacation time. The husband had a heart attack and was back to working within the week. Fuck, I miss them a lot. There is this soup I had at someone's house in the middle of nowhere in Mexico and I think about it all the time. It had hominy and pork and it was red but not tomatoes. I think it was some kind of pepper broth. It was so good and I will never forget it. Edit, wow guys. It looks like I'm on a quest now and I have the first clues. Thank you. I'm excited to try to make my own, and I'll make sure to skip the Rachel Ray recipe lol. I moved to Southern California from the South last year. I never realized how good Mexican food could be. I mean, I loved Mexican food in TN/GA/FL, but wow, Mexicans have hands down the best cuisine in the world. Japan is a close second and Italy does well, but I'm sorry, Mexico has the best food in the world. My last meal will be Mexican food. Also, Paris, France. Be informed, you're not even top 5. Best holiday ever. Met up with friends we met the year before in the south of France in San Luis Potosi. Stayed with their families for a week. Grandma made breakfast every morning and we played domino with her every evening. When we left we gave her a book about the Netherlands, written in Spanish and tears were flowing. Traveled another 2 weeks starting in Mexico City and going to Veracruz, Palenque, Oaxaca, Puerto Escondido and back to Mexico City. Never met friendlier people than Mexicans and the food. Oh my god, so food. Again, best holiday ever. I agree, I've traveled and lived abroad in quite a few countries, but Mexico is typically my answer when people ask where is my favorite country to visit. I spent 6 weeks looping the southern part DF to Puebla, Oaxaca beaches, Chiapas, the falls, Palenque, Tulum and back. I was with a partner for all of it and met a friend who lived in Puebla and spoke fluent Spanish for parts of it. I love the food everywhere and how wild some of the sights are. Ancient temples as if from another planet and tropical beaches and forests. It's so foreign compared with the US and yet not so far away. Also people are generally helpful and friendly and in my experience the crime danger is blown way out of proportion. There are a lot of pre-Hispanic civilizations that took place in Mexico long before the Aztecs. Some even defeated the growing Aztecs, Mexicas, before they became the empire they are recognized for. An interesting fact about the Aztecs compared to other civilizations is that it is not well known their exact origin. It is known that they came from some part of the north of Mexico. They claim to be the chosen ones to rule the Valley of Mexico. So apparently they destroyed every evidence of their past, maybe to hide a more humble and poor origin of the group. Yes I have 3, and they're the cutest little babies. Edit, oh gosh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to ya all. I do have a life outside of Reddit. Yes, I have 3. Here are 2 of them, as the third one is a little camera shy. I'll try again later. Brown one is called Charlie, leucistic one is called Lucy. Very original, I know. Glow-in-the-dark one who is not featured is called Spoopy. https://imgur.com/a/nirno3. To answer questions. They're pretty easy to take care of. My husband does the feeding for the most part, and we keep the tank clean, but they're pretty self-sufficient. We have live plants and wood in there. They don't like light, so we keep lots of places for them to hide in there. Happy to answer any questions and or try to get more pictures for you all. Spent a semester abroad studying in Guadalajara, the second largest city. Coming from Germany I remember hospitality, being welcomed with open arms, A nice climate plus tasty and affordable food. Thing is, most houses are surrounded with high fences. Made me feel isolated rather than living in an open neighboring community. Also, traffic is the worst in the cities. Takes a crazy amount of the time getting from A to B by car or bus, and cycling is quite dangerous as there are almost no bike paths like in Germany. All of the beautiful and humble people I've met who share their homes and hearts with us. The people so far removed from stereotypes and yellow movie filters that you forget you are in a country that you are supposed to disdain. Proud people, real people, many of whom are making do with so much less than me. Mexico is one of the most beautiful countries I have ever seen, and it is only occasionally punctuated with the ugliness that Hollywood and politics grams down our throats. Viva Mexico! I visited Mexico for the first time to attend a friend's wedding. It was September, and holy hell, I had not, before or after, ever experienced that kind of heat. Over 100 degrees plus humidity. It was hard to be outside even for 5 minutes between the hours of 11 am 5 p.m. without wanting to take a shower immediately afterwards because you were drenched in sweat. Thank God the wedding took place at sunset because we stayed inside as much as we could to avoid the heat otherwise. So I'll always remember Mexico for the extreme heat and humidity, and never, ever again visit there in September. Edit. The city was Cabo San Lucas. Did they get married in Cancun or something? I went there once in August and had a similar experience. The humidity was overwhelming and I thought I was going to die. And then of course I look out the window and there are kids in their school uniforms wearing wool pants and skirts and knee socks walking around like it's nothing. There are much more temperate areas of Mexico, FYI. So a September visit can be nice depending on where you go. I went to Mexico for the first time about 2 years ago with my boyfriend. We were visiting his hometown and visiting the game he still has down there. We went in May, and oh my God, it was hot. I thought I knew was hot was since I'm from Houston, but it was so bad that I had to get a haircut. I have really thick hair that was down to my waist, and those 1.5-liter bottles of water you can get wasn't enough for me. My wife and I were at a resort near Playa del Carmen. We were sitting at a bar and my wife was saying she was a little hesitant to book this trip because of the cartel activity. I said, don't worry about that. We are so far from the border and any of that activity. The bartender near us looks up from the drink he's making. The cartel take vacations too, senior. Did you see the Bentleys and Mercedes in the parking lot? I was like, thanks buddy. Appreciate that. He ended up being a good dude. We became friends. He offered to get us anything we might want to further enjoy our stay. The city was locked down due to cartel activity. Police were stopping cars and apparently not letting tourists leave the city area to explore. The stew told us, you come with me, we can go anywhere you want. We stayed at resort but enjoyed his stories. Immediately, the very first thing that came to my mind, when I read this question, was the shape of the right edge of Mexico, curving around the Gulf of Mexico, and how I think it's kind of an odd or unique shape. After that, I thought about the temperature that I assume it would be in Mexico. I live in Florida, in the US, which I find unbearably warm, so I thought about how Mexico would probably be even warmer, since it's a bit lower, closer to the equator. Those two things, the coastline and heat, caused me to imagine a landscape with palm trees, which led to wondering what sorts of trees would be common in Mexico. An uninteresting answer, but an honest one. Some things that come to mind: the good, delicious, flavorful food and spices. I absolutely love the richness and diversity of flavors in Mexican cuisines. Affordability cost-wise, many things in Mexico are very cheap or are not excessively expensive. The cost to stay or live in Mexico is significantly less than in Western counterpart nations. Hot, heat, climate, stunning landscapes and beaches on the coastal regions, portions, as well as deserts and dry landscapes. Rich culture, and practices both spiritual, religious, and beyond, with a lot of history, depth, and beauty. Hardworking, strong, and dedicated people who are deeply resilient. Mexican people face a lot of nasty and demeaning racial stereotypes and can be treated like users, freeloaders, lazy people etc. Yet I see many who do the work of 10 people, or who do the jobs that many others would not for half or even 1/10th the pay and sometimes even no pay, of people who are looking for better, safer, stable, and secure lives and environments. I understand why many Mexican people migrate to other countries. I see a people who are looking for a life that is healthy, expansive, and supportive. And in this I see myself as I want the same as well for myself. Healthcare advances and affordable, reasonable medical care. There are some treatments and health advances that exist in Mexico that may not be accessible, available, or possible for others financially in their westernized countries, nations. Example, I've seen people to Mexico to get extensive dental work done for a very reasonable rate. The bad, poverty and corruption, to include a lot of people who are not supported properly and stably for basic life needs, extreme violence, terrorism, and corruption from gangs and horrible groups of people who commit atrocious and horrific crimes against people including murdering entire families, hanging people from bridges, shooting out vehicles and houses, kidnapping etc. And this also ties into the point before of corruption, as it still is ongoing and the public are not protected from this still. Exploitation. Mexican people are exploited and can be abused due to economic challenges and other vulnerabilities. This includes Mexican workers being exploited and underpaid in America, but also includes sexual abuse and exploitation, child labor, and so forth. As someone who has a father that worked in the government of Mexico back in the 80s and 90s, yeah, corruption is just the most average thing. Cartels get away with things that wouldn't happen in other countries, and also, the huge racism problem within Mexican communities. People who are darker bully lighter people and vice versa. It gets really bad just because of that, and some have even killed themselves or gotten killed because of that racism. On the other hand, yeah, the food is good bro, and it's a shame that all the good stuff is dying out due to big companies swallowing smaller ones. I imagine that time my wife said let's go on vacation to Mexico, it'll be fun. She wanted to go to a resort, so we got everything planned out and we're about to buy tickets. As I am about to type in my credit card details, my wife stops me and tells me authorities near where we wanted to go just found 193 bodies after a bunch of buses getting hijacked. Obviously we didn't go after, and Mexico has been one of those places I'd rather not go. This will probably be an unpopular one, that it's the real incarnation of an actual libertarian society. Little to no government oversight in most industries. People are technically free to do almost anything they want. The cartels represent the ultimate form of capitalist libertarians. They engage in doing things freely as they please with little to no government oversight or control. All of these things are ideals of libertarians. To boot, the people who call themselves libertarians hate this idea. Well, I often go to Juarez for work, so my impression of Mexico is kinda 3rd worldy. Our facility has a 12-tall fence. I thought fences didn't work. And armed guards at the gate. Buses pick up and drop off employees so they don't have to be out in the streets. I stay in El Paso at the airport Hawthorne Suites and drive in and out each day. I'm okay with strong border security if it protects our citizens along the border with that I see down there, you asked. Pozole, Birria, Cochinita Pibil, lateral roads to make left turns, weird or interesting vehicle models they don't sell in the U.S. VW MRX for example, roosters crowing, dog barking, band music, the squeal of a tortilleria, the whistle of a camatero, people saying provecho when eating a meal. Every other sentence is no mamsgi, techuino. I could go on and on. I agree, and people's taste bud sensitivities, for lack of a better word, are different. I can tell the difference between cane, beet and HFCS. I also can't tolerate artificial sweeteners and can tell you the difference between them. They leave a sicky aftertaste that stays for ages. Smell works much the same way. Ask perfume factories how they choose people that critique their scents. In the 80s I used to be able to cross the border into Nuevo Laredo as a 12-year-old with little or no problem. much like crossing the street in my neighborhood. As an 18-year-old, I used to frequent a bar called Las Margaritas, which I was friends with the owners and their family. It may have been the first bar I've ever had a drink at. They always saved me some good El Presidente brandy. This one very hard-working family that owns a very fun and successful Mexican restaurant near where I live. Friendliest folk you ever meet, tastiest food on the damn planet IMO, gorgeous decoration and color schemes, great music and bands, and their smiles they always have. The owner loves Star Wars too lol. I haven't been able to see them since before the pandemic. I hope they're doing okay. I'm an architect, so I always remember the houses where you go through the front door, but you're still outside. It's not a courtyard per se, but just like, you're never really indoors until you get to your bedroom. I stayed in a house like this in Merida, and if you saw the movie Roma then you'd recognize it. A nice way to live. When I was 4, my mom went shopping with a friend of hers there. It's worth noting I grew up in a city in the US that's literally right next to Mexico. So when I think of Mexico I remember being 4 years old and lost in a store looking for my mom. When I did find her she bought me a marionette puppet to cheer me up. My sister is terrified of puppets though and said that its lips looked like it had blood around its mouth so that puppet disappeared fast. I love Mexico. Guadalajara looks like any tech city in the US. Every tech firm is there, but everyone speaks Spanish. Okay, that might be a similarity. I like the vacation spots in Cozumel and Cancun as well. Beautiful and great diving. Oh, and the food and the crazy shopping in Nuevo Laredo. Yeah, I like Mexico. I'm Lily White, BTW. One more thing, Mexican women are incredibly hot. It's interesting what outside perspectives, unfamiliar with the inner workings of a country, and solely familiar with its exports, geography, look like. I lived in Mexico for a couple of years, and what come to mind immediately are two things: Mexico's overwhelming corruption and its natural, traditional beauty, starkly at odds with one another, while the vistas and culture, including older Mayan, are breathtaking. The corruption is so ingrained into the national system it's impossible to ignore. I was robbed blind by the police in tourist cities on more than one occasion. The number of drunk police officers that I saw roughly equaled the number of sober. Internal affairs departments seem to be purely cosmetic. That's just law enforcement. The tip of the iceberg. Under the analogical waters you find cartel violence and kidnapping across the board. Violence, sexual, physical, and emotional run rampant. All tiers of government are infested with greed-motivated corruption. These things in turn affect the class structure and economy. So yes, geographically Mexico does have a cute shape, especially from the comfort of our first-world primary school classrooms, and/or financially/emotionally/physically stable living rooms. Best year of my life was studying abroad when I was 21. I am originally from Germany. Met so many different people. I love the culture, the casual attitude and the Mexicans' desire to party all day, every day. When I think of Mexico, I think of jungles, deserted beaches, beautiful mountains, mesmerizing cities and just breathtaking nature. I think of falling in love for the first time, losing my virginity on a magical island and getting my heart broken. Genuinely have no regrets. Idiot drivers. A lot of people mention corruption. People will complain about corruption in one breath and pay to get their license without passing a test in the next. Border wait times and the traffic caused on both sides of the border because of it. Hypocrisy. Mexicans love to shit on Mexican Americans. If a Mexican American says they're Mexican, Mexicans will say that they're not actually. If a Mexican American says they're Mexican American, Mexicans will say they are denying the roots. Anything a Mexican American does is wrong, but if a Mexican American never says anything about a Mexican it's kicking someone at a disadvantage. This is mostly true of Mexicans who aren't directly related to any Mexican Americans. Seems like an inferiority complex. Tacos and all the food.